Hey, Glam and Grind community. We're excited to come to you today with our third episode of Glam and Grind with Rach. And
Julz.
today, our episode is about living life in the glam. So, we're going to talk about all things glam today and how we incorporate that into our daily life. And Julie, tell us what glam living means to you.
Oh, goodness, Rachel. Well, I think that's a loaded question. Let me think about it. So, really, what glam means to us? Glam for me, I would say, is defined more about the experiences that we have with our family, with our kiddos. For me, it has evolved. I think what glamorous meant to me in my 30s and 40s, and what it means to me now. I think for us, it is part of our return on life equation. And for us, glam living means creating a return on life in whatever that looks like. So, for example, for us, it would definitely be travel. I mean, that is something that is non-negotiable to our family mission, vision, and values. And so a glamorous living to me looks like exploring the world with my kids. And I would say that's the top of my top three. And then I would say, if I had to choose top three for glamorous living, I would say definitely travel, seeing the world as number one. Number two would be, I think, the experiences while we're traveling the world, right? So things that we get to do together as a family. And then I would say the third thing would be a couple things, but I guess a glamorous living for me would mean how to ensure that we are choosing the right things for our family while we're also hopefully being able to help and impact others. I would say those are the three top, if I had to choose what glamorous living looked like to us. How about you?
Yeah, and I didn't think of this until you started talking, but for me, it's travel for sure. I agree. Giving those experiences to our family. I didn't get to travel when I was a child. My husband didn't much either. It was more like camping, which is great too. But we want to be able to give our children those experiences and also experiencing other cultures, other people, food, all of those different things. We want to give that to our children. And so that's a huge one for our family as well. But also, when you were talking, something stood out to me is having a glamorous lifestyle on a budget is what that means to me. Because if you have this glamorous lifestyle, but you're stressed out about money all the time, or stressed out how you're going to pay your bills, or you just bought this fancy purse, or you just booked this family trip and now your credit card's maxed out and you can't pay it off and you have to get a second job just to do all of these things, that is not a glamorous lifestyle. So that is something that's important to me. And I've had to learn that the hard way, y'all. We've had equity lines of credit that we've taken out in the past and different things. So I've had to learn that the hard way, that having a glamorous lifestyle means being able to afford what we are doing above and beyond afford. Like, it's not just like we've maxed ourselves out, right? And then also something else that you said, Julie, that stood out to me, and I didn't think about it until now, was the impact, because that's important. How we influence the community because of the way that we live our life is important to me. And are we impacting the community in a positive way? And are we teaching our children and my team, because my team is a huge part of everything I do, to impact the world in a positive way based on our lifestyle? So that, I think, is important to me too. And I didn't think of that till just now.
Yeah. And I would agree. I mean, we have lots of people who will call us or text us or, ask for a Zoom so we can chat. And a lot of the folks ask us, we love following your family. We love seeing what you're doing with your kids. We love, the experiences that you're offering. We want to learn how to do this. And, how we did it even in the beginning on a budget, how we did it, how we prioritized, right? Spending and budgeting based on, I guess, what we felt were the non-negotiables, right? Because everyone in in all instances, we all have different levels of income, right? We all have different levels of exposable income, or disposable, or whatever you want to call it, net income, exposable and disposable. We do have like this level of, it changes, right? I went to say, like, everybody's level is going to be different. And so based on the level that you're at, I think that is really where the equation comes in. Like, how much disposable income do you have? What is your net income? What, are you budgeting for things that bring you joy? Are you able to even have money at the end of the month for things like that? Which then we have to look at lots of pieces, like how you're living your day-to-day life as well, right? So if your house is making you house broke, then you're not going to have things for disposable income. If your business is making you business broke and you're just creating a W-2 for yourself instead of really creating and having a business that's flourishing, that is going to also affect, what money you have and how these types of experiences are afforded to you.
Yeah. So, what are some ways that you integrate glam into your daily life with your daily routines?
So I'm really bad at this, and you're going to make me blush because it's a challenge for me. But so there's things that are non-negotiable to me, Rachel, like my Starbucks. So every morning I have a Starbucks coffee. Bo picks it up through the drive-through and brings it home for me after bringing the kids to school. I start my morning like that every day, no matter where I'm at in the world. If we're on vacation, I will either walk to Starbucks or go to the gym, then grab a Starbucks. But Starbucks is definitely my vice. I don't drink at all. I'm fully like zero alcohol. I don't really spend money on anything except for my food vices, my Uber food, what do you call that? DoorDash or things
Uber
like that.
Eats. Yeah.
Uber Eats and my coffee, but I do make concessions for those things. So like, because I want my coffee every morning, I make concessions to not have other things, right? So the other pieces that I would cut out, I guess you have to create some type of harmony in what you're doing. So what brings me joy versus the money needed to do that and whether or not we can afford to do that.
Yeah.
So how about you?
For me, I don't have Starbucks every day. I hardly ever have Starbucks, but I don't shop like at all. I don't shop. Everything that we do, we order either through Walmart Plus or Instacart or Amazon, something like that, because to me, time is money, and so that is glamorous for me because honestly, I can sit there and be ordering, the groceries or whatever we need while I'm doing something else. Even when I'm on the Peloton or, doing something else, I can do all of these things at once. So time is money to me. So that is something I feel like is glamorous that I wouldn't have done in my previous life, but now we're able to do that. But it works out because time is money. I guess, my husband and we drink wine. And so we're the opposite of Julie. We have the wine, not the coffee. And that's just our thing. And we sit and we have our wine and we talk about the day and, the end of the day. And we like to talk about different wines and the different regions that they're from and pairing them with different food and, all those kinds of things. So I think that that's part of a glam, I guess you would say, that we can add into our life and our routines, and it's something that we look forward to together to share. So yeah. How about go ahead.
Yeah, no, I was just going to say again, I think the things that bring you joy, right? And I think the things that you can afford to do or choose to do with your money, right? And so folks often say, well, I can't afford to do that, but maybe they're spending money on vices that like are just different, right? Prioritize wise, or priority wise, I guess I could say. So a lot of people say, well, I can't afford to do the travel or whatever. But then when we break it down and look at finances, they're spending maybe a lot of other things to, in place of, basically. So, yeah. So anyways, I feel like, there are going to be different times in your life where things are unaffordable, and they were often unaffordable for us for a very long time while we were building our business, because you cannot build a business and afford all of these luxuries, especially in the beginning. I mean, we were barely making payroll. So those things were not an option. Now that we are in a better disposable income position, we've been able to make different choices. But in general, I would say that when you're trying to integrate some glam in your life, or some positive experiences above, things that you have to spend money on, I would say prioritizing and budgeting for those things can help. So if you're budgeting, for a trip, work backwards with the amount that you want to budget for and see how you can make that work. And maybe having to give up the Starbucks daily and things like that for a little bit. And we've had to do those things, right? So yeah, just understanding where you're at in your journey.
So, what are some ways that you balance luxury with smart financial planning? And talk to us a little bit about assets versus liability, because this is where you're really strong in this area. And I've learned a lot from you as I'm scaling and as I'm getting to a different level of life, how to manage that.
Well, so I would say, balancing luxury with financial planning or smart finances for us, travel for sure. We've had to learn how to do that with, because there's 6 of us, right? 4 kids, 2 adults. So oftentimes it's more than one room that's needed. There's, travel, there's the car that has to be bigger to fit everyone in, right? So we've had to do a lot of like scoonchy planning and like moving things around and using this and that. So we can talk a little bit about, using special credit cards to get different perks. We've had to, we got a Costco membership, so our car rentals are less for when we're in certain areas of the world. We also pair, like last week we were chatting about, both of us were arguing whose deal was better when we went to Atlanta. But some of it is basically just understanding like what you need, what cards to use, how to be financially responsible about booking things as well. So like, for example, I don't fly first class. We don't fly first class unless we've been upgraded or afforded the, upgrade. But what we figured out is kind of a travel hack or a travel mom hack, is that we each received a credit card from Delta, the Reserve Purple card, which I've been telling lots of my folks to get if they fly Delta. It makes a lot of sense. The lounges are then free for you and a guest. So I have my own card. Bo has his own card. And now Xavier, who's 19, has his own card. And we will shortly get one for Xander here. But so with 3 cards, we can have 6 people enter the lounge. So then you're not paying for airport food, drinks. You have clean bathrooms. The kids are kind of in a safe area. Everyone's together. They often have lunches, dinners, snacks, drinks, coffee, right? Where I'd spend $8-10 on a coffee in the airport. Now that's part of it and free. So,
and they have Starbucks coffee.
They do. That's why we love it. But yeah, so like I would say when we, doing little hacks like that, like creating 3 reservations versus 1, we've been able to be upgraded as well, because you as like a diamond or a platinum holder, you'll have 1 person upgraded. So if you do reservations with 222, so there's all these like frugal hacks we've figured out about adding luxury into our travel, buying, condos or vacation, I forget what they're called, vacation homes or whatever, shared vacation homes. We're able to basically stay for free, right? And then if we're getting the perks on the travel, our family vacations went from like being very expensive when we first started out to like now very manageable, right? For 6 of us. So how about you, Rachel? Is there anything that you do that you think even besides travel, any kind of like luxury addition with smart financial planning?
Yeah, I mean, we do all the same things. We have all the credit cards with the points and everything. We use like the Hertz Gold. She uses Costco. We use Hertz Gold, where it's the same thing. You rent the cheapest car for $20 a day or whatever, but then you get the presidential, so you get to pick whatever car you want. So there's always the SUVs and whatever else you need, but it's at a much less price. Like she said, the first class, I always fly first class, but I never pay for it. So that's the difference, is I always get upgraded for free because I want to, but not with my family. When the kids go, we don't fly that way, but when it's just me. But I travel a lot by myself. So I travel different than Julie does, because I travel a lot by myself for speaking and going to my other schools and all of those different things. But the Sky Club has been a game changer, not only for my kids and for me when it comes to the food and the drinks and the comfortable place and all of that, but also for work. I get so much done when I'm in the Sky Club, because it's just, they have the internet, the fast internet that you need. They have all the plugins. They have little booths that I've even recorded like courses in a Sky Club before. So just having that time investment too, that you get back because of having these little things like the Sky Club, and you don't pay for it. I mean, you pay for your credit card, but then your credit card, you get all of these free perks along with it. Hilton is another one that we get a lot of benefits with. Booking through Amex Travel, because then you also get the free upgrades and the free breakfast and the $100 credit on site, so you're not paying for your meals. I mean, it's all these little perks and upgrades. We also have a travel club too that we're part of in Cabo that we are going to be taking our team to. So it's all these things that add to that glam life, but it's really just smart planning is what it really is. I mean, we're not spending anymore. We're just like smart about how we place all of these different things, and you have to plan ahead. So it's that budgeting and the luxury, because I want to have this lifestyle. How do I get there? It's just like you would plan anything else. You plan backwards, like this is what it is. What do I have to do to put all these things in place so that I can get to that lifestyle and all those different pluses, additions?
Yeah. I would say same. We do the same. So when we're super strategic and intentional about everything, that's just the way we operate. And part of that is also, budgeting for a glam type of lifestyle. Glam is very subjective, because what I've considered glam now is very different than I even considered glam 10 years ago. Like before, it was about the cars and the labels and all of the material things to show people like, hey, we made it. I don't think it was really for me in the beginning. And now it's like, I could care less if what we have, the days of like owning all the labels, it doesn't, that's not what brings us joy anymore. And it's not what we place our efforts on or budget for, right? For us, it's definitely changed. And so again, I think it just depends on where you are in life, whether or not that, because travel for some people, that's not even something they want to do, right? For both of us, we feel like that because both of us never had that growing up. Like I remember my mom was a single mom, 3 jobs, whatever. She took us to Niagara Falls, which was like huge for us. Like we went to Niagara Falls, we had a helicopter ride. She spent like all her money she saved on us to have a little helicopter ride around. We talked about it literally for 10 years because it was the only big vacation we ever went on. And then my grandparents took us to Italy, which was also really super cool. But like we really never traveled. We had maybe 2 or 3 major experiences, and one of them was Disney. I do remember that. So those are the 3 things that, we had our whole life, but I always had this itch to see the world, right? And so for me, I think like you, it's just something that I want my kids to be able to experience. And so I really, from day one, we've always budgeted to try to have even 1 trip a year that we work towards. Which some people that might not, like you said, like that might not even be something they want to do. Some people hate traveling, right? So, but maybe it is, I don't know, buying a new car or, getting a new home, whatever it is for you that makes you feel, that brings you joy.
Yeah, and I think, but also it goes the other way too, is people want that for their family. I hear that a lot too, is, ooh, I would love to take my family on a trip like that. Okay, great. Well, then plan for it and budget for it, because you can do that. You might not be able to stay at a 5-star resort or,
Right.
go on a super fancy trip the first time, but whatever you can do, go on a cruise, go on, drive somewhere or do something, but you can do that, but you have to budget for it first. And I think that's important to talk about, because people have this keep up with the Joneses epidemic, right? So they see like, oh, that person got the G-Wagon or, whatever, the fancy car. I want to have that fancy car. So I'm going to get that fancy
Yeah.
car and post it all over social media. But I can barely pay my mortgage, or they get the big fancy house, like you said, being home broke, but then they can't do all these other things, or their credit card bills are astronomical. We have the surfing boat is the thing, here. We haven't bought a surfing boat ever, and everything that we buy, we pay cash for,
Right.
because it's a liability versus an asset, like Julie was saying, so that we're not just weighing down our finances and also having those it doesn't affect our financial health or our goals, because we don't want the fancy things just to have the fancy things. We want it to bring us joy, and it has to fit in with our financial health as well.
Yeah. So just backing on that, two things you said, Rachel, that I feel like we need to talk about. One is the circle of friends you surround yourself with. So I think we've also I don't want to say leveled up, because it's not really what the conversation here is about. It's more of we've moved circles of friends throughout the years. And as we've moved circles, I feel like the emphasis on what glam living or what living should look like has also altered around us, which has become very insightful for us, that we've become more cognizant of wow, these are not things we need. This is not about anyone else. It's about our family and what we want, what we truly want, right? Where before, like I said, 30s and 40s, I think we did stuff because it was cool to own, a Ferrari, or it was cool to own whatever car. My husband loves cars. He's a car addict and a watch addict. That's his two vices. And it was, I would say, not so much anymore, but definitely those were the things that made him feel like he had made it. Went to school for 15 years, right? Everyone has something that they want to strive to get to. For him, I think he loved the cars, and he loved the ability, the watches was a thing that he would have never bought for himself, right? So I actually bought him his first watch, and it was really a big, meaningful thing for us. But now we're so much about our circle of friends, and our circle that we hang out with. We all chat about passive income living and investing, and it's really changed from where we were in this group of buying liabilities, literally.
Yeah.
And so a liability is even your house, because people don't look at, they say, everything in the American dream is owning your own home, right? I mean, it's you got to own your own home. But do you ever really own your own home? Most people have mortgages for 30, 40, 50 years. They are constantly dumping money in their homes. Every year you're paying property taxes, maintenance, all the things, right? So is home ownership really the American dream? Is it really your dream? I mean, these are all things that you have to think about, right? And I think as we've gotten older, we've been able to really reevaluate the things that we feel are important. So our circle of friends have also changed, because we are now in a circle where those are not things that are important to us, right? So we're not going to hang out with people that's their mindset, or that's their wants and needs. You change circles too, I think, as you kind of mature out of these phases. And then the other thing is really just talking about assets versus liabilities. An asset means that it is a cash flow producing entity, or a cash flow producing product. A home is not a cash flow producing product. Cars are not a cash, they lose value. So, purses, shoes, things that you use are not assets. So we are now really just in a mindset of like, if it's not an asset and it doesn't cash flow for us, then we're not buying it. And that's literally where we're at, except for we have a small pocket where, yes, we buy our Starbucks or those things that bring us joy. We travel. Travel for us doesn't bring us money, but it cash flows us memories and experiences. And for us, that's really important. So again, prioritizing that, but really looking at your life and analyzing, like, am I in a position where I'm spending most of my money on liabilities, or am I spending my money on assets that are creating memories or experiences with my kids or my family or my spouse or my partner or whoever? Or am I just continually buying liabilities that is not moving me further ahead, right? And people get stuck in this like liability, we call it the liability death trap, because then you're always seeking material things to make you feel good and to give you joy. And that's really a hard thing to keep up, right? Because then it's the next bigger thing, the next bigger thing. And then your liabilities just, create more havoc on your life than anything else. So just really kind of trying to weigh out whether you're living life by buying assets, or are you, creating more liabilities for yourself.
Yeah. Well, and they end up sucking the joy, actually. So they end up doing, because like I said, it's that up at night, oh my gosh, I can't afford to pay all my bills. I mean, people tell me what their boat payment, we live in Montana, y'all. Boats you can only have for 3 months at best a year. And these people's boat payments, I'm just like, are you kidding me? That's the stupidest thing I've ever heard in my life. So, I mean, it ends up sucking the joy. And it's also a conversation that we have with our children, because, they'll see these fancy boats, or the parents that buy the fancy cars for the kids and the fancy trucks, like when they're 16. We don't do that. That's just not a value for our family. And so we explain to them that we are investing in our family's legacy wealth. Like, we want this, what we have, we want you to have for a long time. So we're not going to waste your children and your grandchildren's future because we want to have a fancy boat, or we want you all to have fancy cars when you're 16. So it's just whatever your different family values are. And it's also teaching them that too, because they'll see that and they'll think, well, why don't we have this? All of those different things. So teaching them the difference between assets and liabilities as well, and what's going to get you to the next level in your life that's for the future, not for just today.
Yeah. And when you're buying assets, that's the whole goal. Like, we are living 100% off of passive income. We're living 100% tax-free, and we're living with continual appreciation on our assets, right? So every year that goes by, we're growing our assets, we're lessening our liability, right? So our children, grandchildren, we're doing all of this for their legacy. In the meantime, we also want to enjoy life. So like, we buy things that help with that. For example, our timeshares in Hawaii, or our Disney timeshare. We bought, when each of the children were born, we bought them each a deed for Disney that lasts 50 years, so that their families could go on vacation on us, right? For life. For us, that was something that we wanted to do, that we wanted to offer them. With the Hilton, they have lifetime membership that will continue to roll over to their kids. So again, they have 4 deeds that they can use for family travel ongoing. For the rest of their lives, their kids can then be transferred it. So there were very intentional and strategic things we did for our family to continue to have this legacy of Bo and I long after we're gone, right? And so that shifted much more around the 40-year-old mark, right? Because we had done some exits, we had some cash flow coming in, we had a few capital events. But even in the beginning, when the kids were really little, we bought those Disney timeshares, thinking like, this will be a good thing to give them from us, because we wanted to value travel in our family. So again, it could be something else. I'm just giving examples on what we felt like assets were. And of course, those are paid off, right? There's no debt on them. So you have to be able to like at least if you can't afford to pay it all up front, budget for that and make sure that it's not causing you stress, because giving a present like that but causing you stress is not gonna be worthwhile. So yeah, budgeting for those luxury, quote unquote, glam items that you feel like you want to have, whether it's now or in your legacy plan. Yeah.
So one of the things that I wanted to talk about that goes along with that is how have you, because you had this friend circle that, had that keep up with the Joneses circle, basically. So how did you kind of get out of that to kind of curb that impulse spending? How did you put those financial boundaries, not only on yourself, but on your family? And like you said, you have a pocket. So I think we should talk more about that, because we're the same way. Like, this is our fun money, basically.
Yeah.
And so we do have the purses, y'all. Let's be honest. We do still have the purses. We still have all of these fun things, but it's based on our financial boundaries. So how did you set those financial boundaries based on your family's income so that you can still have that, but also it aligns with your financial goals for the future?
Yeah. So I guess everything for us is like a percentage of what we would call revenue, but revenue being net income, right? Or net financial revenue in our family, net financial income in your business. So, because when I say revenue, we want to make sure people aren't like, oh, top line, I can spend this much percentage. Through my mentorships and through learning from billionaires and people in much bigger spaces, they all have their life is a business, right? And I think often, especially early on, we don't look at life as a business, right? We're like, oh, that's my home stuff. This is my work stuff or financial stuff for business. But your economy, your family economy also needs to be considered. And so what you're bringing in, you need to know, like, what is our income level and what is our disposable or net income, and how are we going to share that up or percentage that out to the things that we want to do, or the things that we want to create for our legacy or whatever, right? So, so I think compartmentalizing and creating percentages of what you feel comfortable with. Again, that's going to change with everybody, because if you only have 5% disposable or net income, then you have a little bit more challenges and more to work with to create allocations of 1% in each bucket, right? Maybe where if you have, say, 20% of your income or 40% of your income and you live off 60% of your income, the goal is to live off 60% of your income and actually invest 30 and live, and then have fun money of 10%. That's the ideal for most higher level folks. But in the beginning, like, I knew, like, when we started our business, we had zero disposable income, like literally barely any. So you have to work with what you have in the part of the journey that you're in. But I would say if everyone had an ideal percentage, aiming for that 60, 30, 10 is kind of where I think most people would have the best return on life. But getting there is a challenge, especially if you have debt, right? So if you have debt, personal debt, I'm not talking about good business debt that's creating passive income or cash flow. I'm talking about literal debt from your, things that you're just buying, a liability debt, right? That is not bringing you in anything. So so I'd say that's how we managed it.
Yeah. And I think that's super helpful, because I've heard people, the 80-20 rule or all of those different things. But when you're living that kind of a lifestyle, and I think that's what the difference is between leveling up, Julie, is that when you are a good saver, right? Or you're smart, you have more of that 80-20 mentality. Like, I'm going to live off of 80%. I'm going to save 20%, right? But then it comes to the point where you're like, okay, well, I want to do these fun things, but it doesn't fit into my budget because I'm saving 20%. So then you feel guilty, and then you will go, then you have those, that's where I said those boundaries, I think, come in. That's where the impulse spending happens, because it's like, I'm saving all my extra money. I have no money left over for those different fun things that we want to do. So having that 70-30-10 mentality is a different mentality, and investing versus saving, I also think, is something that is hard to wrap my brain around. And I know that when you and I started having conversations back in the day, it was always like, well, I don't know how to invest, Julie. I don't know how much to invest. I don't know, where I'm at. I still have those conversations with you because we're in a growth phase. So we're buying all these buildings and all these businesses. So then it's like, how do we budget, properly for that next phase of our life, but still maintain the lifestyle that we want and that we value. So having financial boundaries. Go ahead.
Yeah. And I wanted to just insert there because I feel like your story is so real right now, right? Like you're going through these things as we're chatting about them and as we're growing, your business side, your financial and health side of the family has to be balanced. So there's lots of things to consider. And I think it's really fair to say that 60-30-10 is ideal, but you're always going to have to flex, pivot, change based on what you're doing in life. So like when we were pushing high level growth with our businesses, the disposable income shrinks to a huge amount. Like you have to readjust your entire spending and your family spending. You can still have some there, but you are definitely pouring more in. And if you're not careful, we'll chat about this on another call, but there is a percentage of growth that's sustainable in your business. And then there's like where, whoa, you go over the edge and then you're losing traction of all of those things. That is where it gets to be a challenge for folks, especially as they're scaling. Because when you're scaling, there's different benchmarks that you have to be careful of. And one of them is that percentage, right, of 60-30-10. And it no longer is 60-30-10 because you're not able to sustain the growth at 60% spending or 60% expenses. And if you don't increase your income, the problem is in the world in general, whether it's financial at home or in your business, people are focused a lot on the expenses. So we're spending this much, we're spending that much. Let's budget, let's cut, let's budget, let's cut. You can only budget and cut so much so that then it becomes a quality issue for your life and or your business. And so what you really need to focus on instead is like basically having yourself be really structured about the spending and the growth and the percentage, and then increasing your income. Like instead of focusing on expenses, change your mindset and say, I'm not bringing enough income in to what I need for my living or my lifestyle. So sometimes that's getting a side job. Sometimes that's getting a side hustle. Sometimes that's adding an income stream or another stream of revenue. And we've talked about a lot of ways to do that in business, but in terms of personal and like your own personal finances, you need to think about how can I bring in more revenue into this family so that we can have these things. And I know people are like, well, I'm already working 40 hours a week and this and that. So either you need to adjust that spending and expenses, or you need to increase your income. If you increase your income, it solves a lot of your problems, right? So it just depends on how much dedication you want to do to change that equation.
Yeah, I think I'm glad you said that because I think that's important to talk about when you want this glamorous lifestyle or you want to prioritize that for you and your family. Sometimes you have to increase the top line while managing the bottom line. And I say that in business too. It's the same thing. We need to either add value or volume. So what do? You need to add either more hours or you need to add value to whatever you are doing in your own family. I've always had a side hustle. I've never just had one job. I've always sold things on eBay. I've done all the multi-level management things, all of the Mary Kay and all the things. Now I do coaching on the side, and now we're doing Glam and Grind. Like we've always done something else.
Numerous.
Eric's always had 2 jobs, so to get to this level, you have to also watch the top line, which we didn't talk about, Julie. So I'm glad that you mentioned that because it's that people see these people up here, they see these glamorous lifestyles and like the Kim Kardashians and all of that. And they think, oh, I want to have that. But they don't understand that there's a ton of little side hustles that are going on that you can't even see a lot of times. When, like Julie, you know, she has a lot of passive income. There's all of these different real estate investments. I own commercial buildings, same thing. I have passive income coming in. So it's things that we've had to build over time. But it all starts with that financial planning, though. You know, you see, this is what I want. Let's move back from there. What do I need to do to get to that?
100%, Rachel. And I was just thinking too, and I don't think we talked about it on this one. And if we did, I'm sorry, but adding like ways to bring back income into your family that are non-conventional, right? We always think about expenses. Okay, we'll cut this, this, and this. Like if you cut, Grant always says this, and I agree. He's like one of my major coaches. He says like, you're cutting a Starbucks out is not going to change your life. Like cutting a coffee out a day, that's Dave Ramsey. That's very small thinking. That's not changing your life, right? You have to change your circumstance. So like cutting out a Starbucks coffee is $30 a week. Let's call it even $40 a week, right? Is that going to substantially change your bottom line? Or do you have to have a circumstantial change, which is like a severe increase in income, or cutting out something that is going to have a massive impact on your life, like a car payment? Like taking out a car payment has a massive impact on your life. Cutting a Starbucks out, that is not going to make a massive impact, and it's going to take away the joy that you might have from one little tiny thing of a routine, and it's not creating a massive impact. So people might say, Julie, but it is creating a massive impact for people in that level. I still don't think it is. I think that creating a side hustle or bringing in some non-conventional income on your top line will have a substantial and significant difference, or a life circumstance difference, that cutting out one expense, like maybe it's 40, 80, let's call it $160 a month. If you did it every day, is that going to change your life, right? And I think we need to start looking at like, okay, what are non-conventional ways to add income? So I'm like fairly well established, I mean, with my income, and I still am like a little bit of frugal for some things. Like I find ways to like I said, recycle a lot of my fashion. I sell all of it on TRR, which is the RealReal. I've sold in the past 5 months a huge amount of money that went back into our family, because we've been able to like take those liabilities and gain some cash from them, or increase the top line, so I can invest in other things like the podcast and marketing, and maybe other things that will create more of an asset situation versus a liability, or put 25,000 in an investment or whatever it was, right? So I was able to create a lot of passive income by selling stuff, and it wasn't easy. Like you have to pack it up and send it, and communicate, and like people are like, oh, that takes too much time, and I used to think that way, but I'm like, why am I giving away all these things that are expensive, right? That I paid good money for, that have value. So let me try to see if I can recapture some of that initial value. And so that's just one example. Rachel, you can talk about how, Newly and things like that, because I think on the other side of that does add income back to your back pocket as well. But just finding out of the box ways to be responsible with our income, adding to that top line. Like you said, Rachel, lots of people focus on the bottom line, business and personal. And I think we're losing a huge part of the value in not looking at adding income to the top line.
Yeah. And I've talked to people about this before, and they've said, oh, well, it takes away from my family. Well, you're sitting on the couch at night anyways when your kids are asleep. You might well be doing a side hustle during that time. It doesn't take away from your family if you set up those boundaries ahead of time. But you have to have those financial boundaries, but also time boundaries. It's all about planning ahead. And like Julie said, the Newly is saving me a ton of money, because I am not buying all these clothes anymore that I don't need. I buy the essential pieces that I can wear over and over again, or wear with different pieces or whatever, like blazers and sweater, things that you're going to wear over and over again. Mm-hmm. But for those fun, especially like Farm Rio, like those are super fun, colorful, whatever outfits.
Yeah,
I get those from Newly. Yes. Yeah. And yeah, so that also helps the bottom line too, because it helps take out things that I normally would be spending, but also doing an audit on your bank account. I just did this with my accountant or my bookkeeper last week. We went through every single thing, all the subscriptions, all the little things. Like, do we need those things? We need to end those stuff I didn't even know, so you have to just be really careful about all of that. And also switching from paying monthly to paying annually, because one, you're going to be able to catch it a lot faster if you see this big chunk come out. Also, you're going to be able to budget for it better, and you save money. I always ask for a discount when I pay something annually. Always. I always ask for a discount. That's another tip. Always ask for a discount. Don't be afraid to ask for a discount.
I do
So I
all the
always
time
ask
too.
for a discount. Yeah, I know. So yeah, those are just different ways to help you plan better so that you can have this sustainably glamorous life. Because we want it to be sustainable for you, and not just, we don't want people to look and be like, oh, this is so cool, I want to go out and buy all these things. Like, we have these Amazon links that we're going to share with you and different products that we recommend, but we don't want you to do all of that if it's not sustainable for you. So that's a big thing, is having sustainability in your life and in your financial health.
Yeah, I was just trying to look at, I think it was called Rocket Money. It's an app that scans all of your subscriptions, like in your phone. Yeah, if you do that, it's super cool. I'm actually bringing it up to show y'all, but it's called Rocket Money, and it'll tell you the current spend for the month that you have on subscriptions or recurring stuff that you would never believe that you had. And it will find all of it. So Rocket Money is a good one. Also, I had a couple things written here that I wanted to share. Oh, Mint, M-I-N-T.
Yeah, I've used that one.
Okay, is a great app to basically just budget with, right? Like, it helps you to budget. You can also use YNAB, You Need a Budget app. It's also a way to help you budget. There's also one called, I'm trying to find it now. Oh gosh, I forget what the other one was, but those are the ones that we normally have used. But Rocket Money is great. If you put it on your phone, it just scans all of it for you. And it's funny, the amount of money. Like, I would play a game with myself, like, how many subscriptions do you think I have? Or how much money do you think I'm spending in subscriptions? And I'd be like, oh, max $100, like max a month. And it like came back with like 3 or 4 times that. And I didn't even, half the stuff I haven't used, I've used 1 or 2 times. So even on a small scale, like even if it's $50 a month that you're not using, right? Clear that stuff up, get it off your phone, think a little bit more frugally. And you know how everything makes you sign up for a trial and then you forget that you signed up for the trial? Like, I'm so bad at this. I'll sign up for like Wall Street Journal, 21 days free, but then you have to put your credit card in. Well, those are like all scams. Because
did you do that when you read Travis Kelce's article?
Maybe. So like, I put it in and then I was like, oh, I'll just clear it, right? But you have to remember, or put it on your phone to clear it out of there, because then the next month, like you said, audit your bank account as well, because you'll see so many recurring charges. We're like, what is this for, right? Some of it doesn't even come up with like the description that you're buying, so you're not even sure what it's for. So if you can do a monthly reconciliation of your bank statement, and most of us are online now, so we're not looking physically at those monthly statements, print it out and highlight the stuff that you're like, what is this? Because you'll be surprised. You'll probably have like $100 to $300 a month in stuff that either A, you don't use anymore or don't need, right? Doesn't bring you joy anymore. Or 2, that you just literally have forgotten that you even signed up for at some point. And that's how those subscriptions create an incredible asset for those companies, because they are monthly recurring revenue items for them. Because once it's like a let and set, once you buy it, you don't really remember to go back and change that, right? So so that's a little tip and trick on trying to get your monthly spend down. Again, I don't think it's always going to be about expenses, because once you manage that monthly spend and you know what you're bringing, you still probably need something to increase income if you're not at the point in life where you want, or you're not making what you think you need to make or what you want to make to have that extra glam or joy or whatever, it might be. So don't forget to add to the top line. Don't forget to make sure you're analyzing the bottom line. We have lots of tips and tricks, I think, Rachel, that we gave on,
I
travel
want
and
to
things
add
like
a little
that.
bit to that too, to the budgeting. One thing that I do is color code it. So you print out monthly, but also annually, and color code it based on things that you need, which that would be green, and then things that you want, which is pink, and then things that you need to get rid of, which is yellow. And then if you color code that, then you have a list of all the things that you want. So then you're at this is where you need to add to your top line. I want these things, even though they're in here and I shouldn't have them and I can't afford them, they're non-negotiable for me. So some people really can't afford the Starbucks every day, but it's a joy for them, and it's a want. Great. Then figure out that how you're going to make $160 extra a month to add to your top line, right? So just having that visual helps you too to plan ahead, because it's all about planning. I bet you when you guys saw this episode today, you were probably thinking, oh, we're not going to be talking about budgeting and financial planning. We were going to talk about glam, but it's really important that you have to have that planning so that you can have that lifestyle. Julie told me a story about how she posted an article about Taylor Swift yesterday and how she is just so smart with her marketing, and how she just has she's very strategic with everything that she does. So brilliant. I agree. And everything that she does, she's helped so many people just by the influence that she has. And somebody commented, well, everything she touches turns to gold. And that was a trigger for Julie, because she was like, no, it's more than that. We have to work for this. It's strategic, all of that. Go ahead and talk about that, Julie.
Yeah, no, I think it's awesome. Like that person who commented, said like, something about Rachel, something about Taylor, everything she touches turns to gold. And I was like, you know what, you're right, but that's not accidental. And I think that's what I wanted to make sure to point out. Like, it was somewhat, I guess, of a trigger, but more so that we really need to be careful about using like that type of language around folks, also because I feel like it doesn't give them credit for all the things they're doing to create the lifestyle that they want to lead. So like words like lucky trigger me, words like,
oh, she's so lucky.
She's so lucky. She's so rich. She's so, she's so whatever. It was super strategic and super intentional, and we gave up a shit ton to be here. And so I feel like it does trigger me when people have conversations around wealth or success. When
or glam.
It's like, yeah, or glam, or like, oh, she has this car, or she did that. Number one, like, we're business owners. And if you're listening and you're a mompreneur or an entrepreneur on here, even if you're not, I feel like as business owners, we give up a huge amount of our life, our family, our time, and more than anything, we give up a huge part of what, like, our liability, our risk, right? We have to risk our entire family's well-being and financial stability for what we've done and what we've accomplished. And so I just really feel like we need to be super careful and very aware that this does not happen by accident. None of this wealth building doesn't happen by accident. Success, business mastery, uncommon freedom, all the things we're talking about here today, this doesn't happen because we wake up one day and we turn things to gold. People have said that to me before, and that's maybe why I've been triggered. They'll say, oh, Julie, everything you do turns to gold. Number one, stop. Don't say that. I'm all about, like, I'm Italian, so I believe in all those, like, all the, like, I don't even know how you call them in English or what to say, but it's like bad oma, like bad omen. Like, don't say that because it will jinx me kind of thing. Right. So I'm like, okay, don't say that. But also because I feel like it is strategic and it is intentional and it was really hard work. And so like luck is not in the vocabulary. I think that serendipity and being in the right place at the right time, in the right moment, creating the right energy, putting the right energy out creates opportunities, but it doesn't mean we're lucky. So I feel like that's the first thing. And then the second thing is, that if you think that we turn everything into gold, I just posted about this too. Like someone said, oh, you're an overnight success. And I was like, if overnight means 32 years, then absolutely. So I wrote something like, the person that thinks that I'm an overnight success must have been on the day shift, because definitely wasn't a night shift thing. So I think those are things to keep in mind, that this is a process, right? Budgeting, financial awareness, bougie lifestyle that you create intentionally and strategically. It is not something that just happens overnight. And I think that credit needs to be due where credit should be due. And people that create a lifestyle for themselves and work really hard and are strategic and intentional and give up a lot to have other things have to be that has to be addressed, right? I feel like it's hard because even as owners, you have employees, right? And other things. And so sometimes they see the iceberg, but not what's under the water. And sometimes the top of the iceberg, like we went to Antarctica and the guides told us the top of the iceberg is normally less than 1/3 of what the entire iceberg's weight and volume is. So if you think about what you see, right, in real life, you see this iceberg, but the other 2/3, the massive amounts under the water, is what no one sees. And that's all this is the backstage stuff we're talking about, right? All these things that you have to do as an owner, you have to do as a mom, you have the invisible loads we carry, all the things. So, I mean, that was a long answer, but I feel like it definitely triggers me when we chat about that stuff, because I'm like, man, it is not easy. Like, let's stop making it something that's easy. It's not easy. So.
Right. Yeah. Okay. So we want to end our day, our episode, just like we do every single episode, with our health, wealth, and happiness tips. And our health tip for this week is all about what you eat, what you're really careful about what you put into your body, but also what you put into your children's bodies, and teaching them what they eat and how to have healthy food, fast food versus home cooked meals, and how to manage that and to plan for that. So Julie said that, you want to talk a little bit about your meal prep on Sundays.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think in general, you can chat about it on different levels, right? So in the beginning, especially as we were growing our businesses and, trying to keep that bottom line tighter, right? As we needed the income for other things, we did meal preps on Sundays. And so we would pack out a bunch of Tupperware and make a bunch of food for the week and freeze it. And I still sort of do that sometimes, to be honest. I'm kind of Italian that way. So I'll make like chicken parm and all the things, and the kids can just grab from it during the week. But strategically planning your meals, things like that. Again, it takes time. So, you're taking time from your family and you are taking time to create that bottom line increase, but that is one way to do it. On the other side of it, what we do now, because we have more income, more disposable income available to us, we will buy, like we in Omaha, it's called meal box, but we buy like 12 meal box a week. Every Sunday they deliver. And it's not every week, but maybe every couple of weeks. It just depends on what's going on in our life. But when the boys are like in football or soccer or lacrosse and have other things going on, we buy those for lunches. So they need high protein lunches, and like making all this stuff, plus making dinners, and doing Zooms and podcasts and client calls and coaching. And it, for me, the time to make those was just, you sometimes you just have to give up like what time versus money, right? And so now we focus more on buying those meals for having like extras in the fridge, right? And so we traded sort of our time for money on that, I guess. So it was something we budgeted for, or that we would allow for, I guess. So again, different levels, right? If you're in the beginning stages, you're not going to be buying pre-made meals, but you can still meal plan and be more cost efficient, or like HelloFresh or those types of things. There's a variety from making everything yourself to not making anything yourself, right? So how about you, Rach?
I liked we did HelloFresh for a while, and I liked HelloFresh because it kind of gave you some cooking tips as well. And so like taught my kids how to cook different things, and just having help. Like now my daughter is helping. That's kind of her job, is to help with doing meal prep and, all of those things. Eric does, honestly, a lot of it now, because I used to cook a lot, but now Eric does a lot of that. But just that planning ahead so that we're not like at the last minute, oh my gosh, it's 8 o'clock and we haven't eaten. Let's
Uber Eats.
figure out, whatever. DoorDash some Qdoba or whatever, like which we do and we've done, but just having those, planning ahead so that you don't have to do as much of that. The wealth strategy, or the wealth tip that we have for you this week, is all that we've talked about in this whole episode, which is that financial planning, budgeting, the lifestyle, figuring out the lifestyle that you want, what you're willing to give up for it, and what you're willing to work for. So how you're going to add to your top line, but also take away from your bottom line based on your wants and your needs. So I think do you have anything to add to that, Julie?
I would just say to challenge yourself, listeners on here today, to do two things. One, install that Rocket Money app and literally just scan everything for subscriptions and just erase what you don't need, because you'll be super surprised. I'm telling you, it's like, it's bad, but it's great. And then two, I would say to really intentionally look at what your net income is in your family and what percentages of revenue you're bucketing for, different things, so that you can have a better awareness, so that you can understand, like, hey, is it an income problem? Like, am I just not able to cut expenses enough to have joy or to have the things I need? And if it's not, like, how long do I need to increase my income? And by what number? Do I need to increase that income to get what I want out of life, right? And if you're young, it's a great time to do this. Like, the younger you are, if you're listening, get on this. Like, I tell my kids all the time, like, even if it's content create and you bring in $1,000 a month passively from some content creation or some value that you can add. A lot of young folks are really great with YouTubing and Instagramming. And so, like, my son, I'm really trying to get him to like start creating content. He's really great at like muscle building and like workouts, and people come to him all the time because he lost a ton of weight, right? And so he lost a ton of weight and grew a ton of muscle and really worked through this for a long time. So I'm like, you're the perfect person to like show people how to do this. And so we're trying to get him now to start creating sort of like a course or content on how he did this and how he can, influence and help other people do that. So sometimes it's just about knowledge you might have, that getting it out there will help create a little more passive income. And $1,000 a month for a 19-year-old is a lot of money, right? Like, that's going to change his life, right? So I guess thinking about what can you do to add to the top line, and challenge yourself, like, to see, okay, is it a top line issue? Am I just not making enough money to translate what I need on the bottom line? Like, because again, you can only strip so many expenses before the joy is stripped too. So just to be cognizant and understand, what does that look like for you? And it's a great thing to have challenge your kids too. Oh, and I have one other share financial. If you have littles, people are always asking me, Julie, how do I get my kids like financially literate? How can I start showing them that like jobs and, how to make income? So download something called Gravy Stack. It's an app. It's incredible for kids. They also give you family financial topics and things to share with the kiddos. But it's awesome because they can work for money and it's all in their account and they can spend their own money. So it really helps change the, the emphasis on you controlling that for them, right? And it starts to give them some value around financial planning.
What age would you say that's for?
I mean, it really can be any, but I would say, let's call it, 5 or 6, once they start understanding that they can like do a chore or do something for the family to create a return, Zoe has it. So she's 12, and they're very motivated by it, and it's a game. So it keeps them engaged. And yeah, so gravy stack, I would say once they're like 14, they can kind of work in a workforce like now, right? 14, 15, they can work at McDonald's. My kids then transition to like McDonald's and having like jobs where they're learning more on-site and earning a paycheck and things like that. But for littles that, aren't ready for the workforce, I would say up until at least for probably the 12 is still working. So maybe 12, 13, 14. Yeah. And then, once they can go get a job, obviously they're not going to care about gravy stack, but it does help. And it gives a lot of families also topics around finances, which is, I think, really important too, because sometimes we don't even know what to tell our kids or how to start the conversation. I get a lot of questions on like, how do we not give our kids everything because now we have it, or how do we help our kids manage money better than we did, for example, or whatever. So, so I would add that to one of the things that you can add to your family to help.
Awesome. Okay, so for happiness, our tip is, and I think we probably say this every week, but it's important to us, but do what brings you joy. So just like Julie said, her morning coffee every day, one of the things that I just added back into my schedule that I took out was I had my assistant totally block off my Mondays and Fridays. So my Monday is my focus day. I do all the planning. We do catch up on like the podcast, or we do anything. Planning, all of that needs to happen on Mondays because I wasn't doing that. And I was just go all the time, which was sucking my joy. So now Mondays is my focus day. Friday is my family day. And I try to have that time for either me and Eric or the kids, or planning things for the family, or getting caught up on laundry, that kind of stuff. So I added that back into my schedule to try to help bring me joy. And so that was the tip that I have for bringing you joy for happiness this week.
Yeah,
and
I would
we
agree.
Want you guys, go ahead.
Oh, I agree. I don't think I have anything else. I think that that's a great idea to take a day, on your own and just feel like you have some control over your schedule. So I'm glad that you did that, Rach. And I would say if you can put the 30 for 30 on your schedule, I think it's really helpful to, keep your mind in a good space as well. So 30 for 30, if you weren't on our last podcast, is work out 30 minutes a day for 30 days. Because
get an accountability buddy to that, because Julie bugs the hell out of me every single day.
I just send you snapshots of me working out, so then you feel that.
I do, and it works. But I told her today, like, even being consistent for, I don't even know how long we've been doing this, not very long. I already feel my body feels better, and my mind feels better. Like today when I was on the Peloton, I just felt like, yes, this is great. I should do this. Yeah. Be better about this, So, and it even made me want to do another workout today. So it just, having that accountability buddy that's going to bug you and to make you actually do it is, I think, another tip too, because on my own, I could be like, oh yeah, I'll do every challenge. But then really, I'm like, am I really doing it? Not really. So yeah, having that accountability helps.
And for happiness, I would say that accountability, Rachel, also is like not just for your workouts, but like a life accountability buddy or partner that keeps you on track, like, and asks you, like, is this bringing you closer to your end goal? Like, we have these conversations every day, right? But we don't even know that we're having, like, that we're life partner, accountability partners. But we say, like, hey, like, okay, I know you want to do this. Is this going to bring you closer to the goal? Okay, you want to do that. Is that bringing you closer to your goal? So, like, sometimes it's, again, changing that circle of friends, or leveling up or finding someone that's going to keep you accountable for the things you really want in life, right? So make sure to find someone that's straight and real with you. Lots of people are yes people. Those are not my people. I like people to say no to me and tell me like, hey, that's not a good decision for you, or let's chat about why you'd want to do that, right? And I don't tend to be controversial or confrontational, but I do tend to be inquisitive. Like, okay, Rach, is this bringing you closer to your goal? Rach, is this going to be long-term what you want for your portfolio? Whatever it is, right? So I feel like we do that for each other. And I think a lot of people don't have that or don't even know they need that. So it's something to just keep in mind when you're choosing, your really tight circle of friends, that they are folks that are going to help you level up. Because people are either building your empire or they're helping you destroy it. So just keep that in mind as you move forward.
The other thing, just to quickly add to that, is that having that accountability partner, but also having that community, because there's days when I can't, and Julie says, how can I help you? Or she's having a day and I say, how can I help you? Or, I do that with my husband, so having that person that you can always just lean on, that you're like, hey, can you actually post this for me? Or can you research this for me? Or, just different things to help you get to that over the hump, I think is important too. And so with that, just really quick, I wanted to add that we have our community that we opened up that we're super excited about. And we've already got a bunch of new friends in our community and they have already joined. And so for the first 3 months, you get to join our community for $79.99 a month. But after the first 3 months, it'll be $99.99 a month. And we're into week 3 right now. So you need to join now and be part of it. We're going to have courses. We're going to have resources, PDFs, downloads, meetups, like all kinds of great things. But also you have access to me and Julie and asking us questions and, all the things that we normally would put on social media and more, we're now putting into our community. So we want you guys to join that. And we have go ahead.
Just to clarify, Rach, it's $79.99 if you join in the first 3 months, but it will stay $79.99 for y'all who join in the first 3 months. After that, if you join after the first 3 months, if you join after April 1st, I believe, then the price is $99 a month. But the people who join now, they're getting our founder's price. And so the people who are in our community now, they're going to stay at $79.99. Anyone after that will be subject to the increase. So I just wanted to clarify, make sure that you know that it's not $79.99 for 3 months and then it goes to $99. If you come in now, it's $79.99. If you come in after April 1st, it's $99.99. So, there's already a ton of stuff in there, and most folks have said they're really excited about what's in there and they can't believe all the stuff already in there, and there's so much more to come. But so if you want to join us, we would be so happy to have you in our inner circle. I think it's just a really cool place for moms, female entrepreneurs, and go-getters, stargazers, crusaders to be in there and just really collaborate with each other. So thanks for mentioning that, Rach.
Yeah. And lastly, if you like what you hear on our podcast and you want to hear more, please like, comment, and share. Subscribe to our podcast and let us know what you want to hear more of, because we want to be here for you and we want to provide content that helps you, your business, your family moving forward. So have a great week, everybody.
Thank you so much for tuning in for this episode of Glam and Grind.
Make sure you like, subscribe, and share. See you next time.